What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to the Horror Master YouTube channel. And we are finally at the end of this journey that we started a couple of episodes ago. We are actually on the end of my CD shelf collection, which I gotta thank everybody who have seen all of the videos so far below the past couple of days. I You have no idea the huge undertaking I've done to do this, but if you all have seen through all the videos, you know what's up. If you have not seen the previous four parts of my CD collection, I seriously recommend you all to go and watch them before you watch this video. But enough jibber jabby, let's get into the final shelf of my CD collection. So last time we ended it with Sodom, Assist by Cruelty / In the Side of Evil EP. We're still in the letter S's. So up next we have Sewn with Imperium, and I gotta both blame and thank my good friend Hannah. At first, I thought Imperium was a black metal band because knowing she's the black metal expert in the Horsemen, I thought it was gonna be a full-on black metal band, and it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. It's progressive metal, alternative rock, whatever you want to call it. I mean, everything about it is perfect, from Deceiver, the antagonist, the ballad Illusion, but Monarch to me is the standout track of this album. And not to mention, this is Martin Lopez's band after he moved away from Opus. He started this band, and this is their, I believe, their second album in Discography, and I cannot wait to see what they bring up next. Next up, this was another Christmas present from Hannah. And knowing Hannah, she likes the weird stuff in metal, and of course, she got me addicted to this. So, again, thank you, and damn you, Hannah, for introducing me to this band. Sostafir with Aura. Black metal. It's black metal at first, but it's beyond more black metal. It's more beautiful. I'd say being the proper word to describe a black, quote unquote, black metal band. But it has a lot of post metal, a lot of shoegaze at time. If you listen to this album, the first thing that's gonna pop up in your head is black metal. You think of something you probably will listen to if you're going down, the great hills of Scotland and just see the ocean and the lake and the green landscape. Something that's undescribable. But if you ever have a chance to listen to Solstafir, Aura is the number one choice. Next up, it's my Swallow the Sun discography. Now, for those who know, Swallow the Sun is probably, next to AC/DC, one of my favorite bands of all time. I think everything they've done is pure perfection. They have, not everything they do create is pure gold, and I actually have their entire discography. Sorta, I'm missing one more thing, which I'll get to when I get to. But Swallow the Sun is one of those bands that is beyond music, beyond inspiration. They helped me out through a really, really difficult time in my life, and you know, I will forever worship Swallow the Sun for doing that to me, and to prove that I am a huge Swallow the Sun fan. Of course, we have the debut, The Morning Never Came. More melodic death metal at first. At first, they weren't really a death doom band. They were barely becoming a death doom band by the second album, but more mellow death metal, more pure mellow death metal. I mean, we have songs like Swallow, Horror Part 1, Silence of the Wombs, The Morning Never Came, through her silvery body. Hell, they even did a cover of Solitude by Cattle Mess, and they made it their own. Gloominess, beautiful. But I mean, for a debut for Swallow the Sun, it's a great album. Next up, we get into, of course, their second album, Ghost of Loss. And when I mentioned that they weren't really death doom, this one really, really, they went full on death doom. We have the opening song, The Giant, probably one of their best opening songs of all time. a slow melodic song, and then it gets Mikko's vocals. My God, they are so down and growly that it's scary how he still manages to do that and not lose his voice. But if you go deep into the album, songs like Forgiver, The Ship, Gloom, Beauty, and Despair, which later became to be described, their songs from the North, 1, 2, and 3 descriptions, which we'll get into in a bit. But another great album. And of course, the follow up, New Moon, which became a bit more commercial in terms, quote unquote, commercial, because I kind of gave the band more recognition, more, I guess, of a following, if I can say so myself. But when you have songs like Don't Fall Asleep, Horror Part 2, um, there's just so many great songs that this album, like I said, probably their most commercial album, but there's one other one that I can say it's a bit more commercial, but we'll get to in a bit. Next up, the EP of all EPs, probably in my mind one of their best songs of all time, Plaga Butterflies. When you have a 30-minute, and I mean 30-minute masterpiece, one song alone, as an EP, you know there's just gonna be some heavy shit. And it's again another great thing from Swallow Sun. So beautiful, so melodic. So I mean, Swallow Sun is the band that I can say describes Death Doom perfectly. Not only that, but this also comes with the Out of the Gloom light EP in the that came out in like early 2000s. Their early tracks will later be on the Morning Never Came debut. But if you have 30 minutes to spare, listen to Plaga Butterflies. Now to the album that I say is probably their most commercial, more out there. I think, like I said, most commercial, which is New Moon. This is probably one of the albums that a lot of people got into Swallow the Sun. When you have songs like Falling World, which of course the legendary Dan Swano sings back in vocals, Sleepless Swans, Weight of the Dead, Lights of the Lake, the title track, you really get into the nitty gritty that Swallow Sun's one. It's a band that will forever progress and become better as instruments. And not to mention, this was the first album that Aaliyah Starbridge contributed vocally. And of course, we know the history with Aaliyah and Jua, how they formed this relationship, and of course, the demise of the end of the relationship. Next are probably, in my mind, the oddest album in the entire discography, Irmo Forest and the Blackbird. I don't know why a lot of people don't like this album. I think it's a fucking killer album from April 14, in dedication to Peter Steele from Typo Negative, because Typo Negative really inspired Swallow Sun, to Cathedral Walls, to Labyrinth of London, Horror Part 4, the title track, Silent Towers. Again, another great album by Swallow Sun. And then, oh, you know what's coming up. We get their most undertaking, their most adventurous, their most, I guess, difficult album to record, produce, whatever you want to call it. But I'm talking about Songs from the North 1, 2, and 3. I mean, just look at this brick. I mean, Jesus Christ, look at it, how big it is. And again, probably the one album that a lot of Swallow Sun fans say it's probably their best ever, and I do agree. But there is one album personally that I think is a bit better. And when I mentioned about in Ghost of Lost, Gloom, Beauty, Despair, all three albums are separated into three parts: Gloom, Beauty, and Despair. The Gloom part being more melodic, death doom; Beauty being an entire acoustic side to it; and Despair going full on funeral doom. And there's a lot of songs you can pick from all the albums and just say they're fucking amazing. From, of course, Room in Shadows, Heartstring Shattering, 7 Hours Late, the title track, The Heart of Cold White Land. What more can you want from Swallow Sun? And then, of course, we get to the album that introduced me to Swallow Sun and was my 2019 album of the year, When a Shadow Swirls into the Light. I have talked about this album religiously, like you have no idea. It is my favorite Swallow Sun album because when I discovered Swallow Sun, I was in a really, really dark place, and their music really helped me through that tough time. And when you have songs like Firelights, Upon the Water, Stone Wings, The Crimson Crown, Never Left, Here on the Black Earth, my God, it's what a masterpiece. And of course, not to mention the story behind it of course, the passing of Aaliyah, how in the Trees of Eternity album, it inspired Jua to dedicate the album to. And I could talk about this album so much, but I'll probably dedicate an entire video to it eventually in the future. But my album of the year for 2019, right here. And then the years went by. I wanted more Swallow Sun, and then of course, last year they released their first live album. Can you believe it? Almost 20 years in their career and releasing their first live album. 20 years of gloom, beauty, and despair, live in Helsinki. This has both the acoustic and the electric set list of that show. Comes with 2 CDs and a DVD of the entire concert, which I have seen that concert so many times because before the pandemic hit, I had tickets to see Swallow Sun. I was really excited to see Swallow Sun, and unfortunately, the pandemic hit and I couldn't see them. But and I still couldn't see them in their previous tour because of work. But again, Swallow Sun has saved me so much that it's the least I can do and get the entire discography for the. And again, the big ass brick. Whew. And last but not least, from Swallow Sun, my 2021 album of the year. Yeah, it's weird. Swallow Sun being the only band I've ever done in my albums of the year list that has gotten 2 album of the year crowns. And of course, I'm talking about Moonflowers. Now, in terms of is it better than When a Shadow Swirls into the Light? Not really. It's still great. I mean, it's a phenomenal album, but When a Shadow is a bit more sad because of the passing of Aaliyah. Moonflowers is a more angry album because Jua has stated in many interviews that he hates this album. Not because it's bad production, not because of the lyrics, not because of legal issues. He hates the album because it reflects on what he went through during the pandemic, and he went back to that dark place that he wish he didn't go back. That dark place that almost made him go crazy, to the point that the album cover, the little sun or moon, whatever you call it, was made out of Juha's own blood. How much better can you get than use your own blood in the album cover? And he picked up flowers for when Aaliyah passed away. And not to mention that before the album was released, the band released mini clips of the album, but in acoustic version and in string version, not acoustic, in a string version, which is kind of odd because usually bands release the actual album and later release the string version. Swallow Sun, one of the few bands that has done this, or maybe the only one that has done it, released the string version quartet version just to give us a sneak peek of what was to come with the album, and they released the entire album. And not to mention, on top of it, once they released the album, they released like a mini animated movie of the entire album and showing this story, which again adds to the majesty of Swallow Sun. And again, it shows that Swallow Sun is one of those bands that like to express themselves in so many ways, not just in music, but in animation and lyrics and all that. And again, another album that has saved me tremendously. And of course, I am missing the Lumina Aura EP, which I hope it ever gets a CD release. If not, I'll have to buy it on vinyl. Even though I don't have a record player, I would like to at least have it in my possession. Whew, so that's enough Swallow Sun. I could have actually done an entire Swallow Sun video, but maybe that would be a feature video. Next up, we have some Tai Cataflay. And again, damn you and thank you, Hannah, for introducing me to Tai Cataflay, especially this album, Meta, which, what a roller coaster of an album. I can't describe it what it is. I mean, it's black metal, death metal, industrial. You have no idea. I mean, from the album cover, which is kind of weird, but never. I guess, like we always say, never judge a book by its cover. It's a weird album, and an album that I seriously recommend everybody to listen to, and especially the song Malvak Jarnik, which, holy shit, it'll mood swings all around. Of course, next up we have the latest in their discography, which is Vatic, another album of the year contender from last year. That, again, same thing with Meta, but I guess more beautiful. I mean, when you have 10 songs and each song is a different universe of its own, you begin to understand that Cataclysm is not to mention, I forgot to mention, Cataclysm is a one-man project. A one-man project. And the instrumentation is amazing. But, my god, if you haven't listened to Cataclysm, give him a fucking listen. Next up, we have some Tool, the only one that I have in my discography. Undertow, their debut, the one album that gave them probably one of the best hits from Prison Sex, Bottom, Undertow, this Figure Man, Sober. That music video for Sober, if you all remember seeing that music video in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was fucking creepy. But my god, I mean, Tool is a band that doesn't give zero fucks, to the point that they waited almost 15 years to release their previous album, which that was totally worth the wait, unlike Guns N' Roses with China Democracy, who waited almost 10 years and became shit. But that's for a different time. But Undertow, great album. Next up, Trees of Eternity, Hour of the Nightingale. This was the project that both Elias Starbridge and Juha Raffio from Swallow Sun created a long time ago. And this album almost never came to light because, of course, the passing of Aliyah, sorry about that. And Juha almost didn't release it, but he decided to release it because this album needed to be heard by everybody. From songs like Condemned to Silence, A Million Tears, Gallows Bird, Broken Mirror. It's one of those albums that you listen to it, it makes you cry, makes you emotional, makes you happy, makes you sad, makes you feel all these emotions in one album. And when an artist is able to do that, they've done their job correctly. And not to mention that this came out on my birthday when I turned 16, and I didn't know about this album until I later found out about the album, and I kicked myself in the nuts for not realizing what came out in my birthday all those years ago. Next up, we have some Over. Now, with Over, a lot of people like the modern Over, a lot of people like the more quote-unquote Norwegian black metal sound, even though their early albums aren't really black metal. I'm just saying they're not really quote-unquote black metal. They were part of the Norwegian black metal scene, but at the core they weren't really black metal. But of course, I'm talking about Flowers of Evo, the runner-up for my 2020 albums of the year. And again, thanks and blame Hannah producing to this album, and especially Over. It's if this album would have come out in the 70s, 80s, in the disco era, this album would have been in every single club, every single disco station you can imagine in a 100-mile radius. One Last Dance, Hour of the Wolf, Little Boy, Nostalgia, but of course, the outstanding track of the album, Machine Guns and Peacock Feathers. It even makes you want to fucking dance. You listen to it and tell me it won't make you dance. Next up, we have Venom, of course, the pioneer of black metal. And I got these two albums from my friend Lena, who really didn't had use for them. So she's like, do you want them? And I'm like, sure, I'll take them off your hands and add them to my collection. And of course, she had Welcome to Hell, of course, their debut album, and it's Welcome to Hell. What more can you say about Welcome to Hell? The title track to Mayhem with Mercy, Poison, probably one of the most sexiest songs if we ever listen to the lyrics. Angel Dust, 1,000 Days in Sodom, like Live Like an Angel, Die Like a Devil, Fear on, Thrash, Speed, Black Metal. And of course, we have the infamous Black Metal. What more can I say about Black Metal that hasn't been said already? From the title track to Teacher's Pet to Countess Bathory, my God, to Raise the Dead, Don't Burn the Witch. If you have not listened to Venom or Black Metal, the album, what the hell are you doing here? Give this album a listen now. Next up, this was another Christmas present that I got from Hannah. And of course we have Wayfarer, A Romance with Violence. Kind of a movie, like, the best way I can describe this album is if you were to watch a movie from like the late 40s, late 50s era. It's of course black metal, and it has a lot of. It's a great album. So if you never heard Waver like I did before a long time ago, you will be shocked by by how amazing this band is. I mean, just give it a listen. Next up, we got some White Zombie, and of course we have the infamous La Exorcista Devil Music Volume 1. Industrial metal in the early to late 90s. Of course, Rob Zombie's first band. And of course, we have songs like Welcome to Planet Motherfucker, Nickel Duster, of course, Thunderkiss 65. If you've ever seen The Bride of Chucky, I love this scene where Chucky's fist pumping his his fist in the air while listening to White Zombie. I think that's one of the best scenes in horror in terms of comedic. Of course, I Am Legend, Rap Asylum, Starface, Grindhouse a Go Go. My God, try blasting some White Zombie doing Halloween and all that. You will definitely love it. Next up, one of the early pioneers of Death Doom, really Death Doom, and it's Winter Into Darkness. This is the original printing, which I got it for a decent price. And funny story about how I got this album. So me and my buddy Levi, aka Thrasher99, got the album from the same vendor at the same time. Even though I ordered the album a couple of days before he did. Of course, he lives in Ohio, I live in Texas. We got them in the middle of the same day, which is one of those things that you cannot make up. But besides the point, when you have songs like Destiny, Eternal Frost, kind of a little bit of inspiration of Celtic Frost, Hellhammer, but really doomy me, really doomy. Was not really close to Funeral Doom, but still doomy. But one of the pioneers of Death Doom. Give them a listen. This band needs more recognition, and not to mention, it finally got a reprint after not having a reprint for years. So, for some reason, after Levi and I bought the copies, they decided to reprint it. So, coincidence? Maybe. Next up, we have Worm with Forever Glade, This is a funeral kind of Deftune band from Florida. And at first I thought it was black metal because of the bag. It kind of looks something that would come out of a black metal band. But once you listen to the album, Jesus fucking Christ. I was immediately in awe of how heavy and doomy this is. And I mean, really, really, really doomy. When you have songs like the title track, Empire of the Necromancies, Cloaked in Night Winds, fucking amazing. And we're almost done, people. We're almost done. We're just missing 3 more albums. Next up, probably the most expensive album I've bought in my discography, and an album I've been trying to find for years, which I was finally able to find last year. I am talking about X Japan's Art of Life. I am a huge X Japan fan, probably one of the biggest bands in Japan next to bands like Loudness, Grey, Anthem. I mean, come on. When you have a 30-minute masterpiece, it has everything you want from X Japan, melodic guitars, great solos, a fucking almost 10-minute piano solo. My God. And not to mention that this album came with this little booklet that has the lyrics. So it was kind of like a bonus thing. Of course, it has both the Japanese and it has the English lyrics right there. And and this album has never gotten a reprint, which is weird because this album came out in 1993 and hasn't gotten a reprint. So don't be surprised if you ever see this copy on eBay for going for over $100, even though I didn't pay that much. I found it of all places on Amazon, and it was from Japan, and it took a couple of months to arrive in the mail. But you know what? It was definitely worth it. Next up, ZZ Top, Eliminator. I unfortunately didn't have the chance to see ZZ Top. They came to my hometown once, but this was before I could even go to concerts. So it kind of sucks, and I don't know if they're ever gonna tour again. Of course, with the passing of Dusty Hill, who knows? But of course, being the Texas boy, of course I had to get one of the best Texas bands to come out of the state, ZZ Top. We have songs like "Give Me All Your Lovin'," "Sharp Dressed Man," "Legs," "Doug," "I Need You Tonight," good old classic Southern rock. And the last album in my entire CD collection, and this one was a gift from a former coworker, who she gave it to me before she left work. 10 Years Division. I'm not the biggest 10 Years fan, but I've heard who they are, and I like some of their songs, but I never got deep into their discography until my friend, former coworker, gave me this before she left work. And for being in the 2000s, something in the 2000s that really kind of, what's the best way I can describe it? Kind of really wasn't as mainstream. Well, it was mainstream, but not really as heavy or kind of like Hoobastank-ish sound. And that same repetitive Hoobastank sound. It's a good album. I mean, has of course, some ballads from So Long Goodbye to the song Alabama, Dying Young, Beautiful, Actions and Motions. I seriously recommend you all to check out 10 Years. It's a underrated little gem that I have in my collection. And we're actually done. That's all of my CDs. I hope you guys enjoy going through this entire journey with me. I seriously can't thank you enough for sticking around for all of these entire videos. This was a lot of fun, and it's probably something that I will probably not do in the future. I mean, I'll still pop out videos, but if I ever get more CDs, I'll probably put them in a like CD update collection. Of course, maybe a couple to get 5 or 6 albums, maybe around there. Of course, I have a lot of plans, a lot of videos planned for you guys. It's gonna take me a while to get the hang of it, but I hope you guys are for the long run. And if you have any ideas, any videos, if it's metal, horror, even comics or anything nerdy anime that you want me to check out or give it a listen or review, because I'm gonna do album reviews eventually, let me know in the comics below. And if you have not yet followed me on Instagram, I'll put it on the description down below so you can kind of see a bit of my, kind of the things that I do behind the scenes in, of course, my personal life, my CD collection, memes, metal memes. And like I said, hope you guys are in for the long run. But until then, stay metal.